I will allow for the fact that there's stores that probably ordered twice what we ordered and sold them way faster than we did. So even their high numbers, their non-conservative numbers, were insufficient, and their regrets now are that they didn't go even higher. And like, we've been there. Like, we ordered 1 million copies. It felt like of Saga #1, but I wish we'd ordered 2 million.
In the Midwest, you know the best is there waiting, so come and join the conversation. I still approve, fan and artist and creator too. This is how the challengers do. What? Keep the conversation moving along. Keep reading comics, keep your local store strong. If it's hard, then it's a job for the challengers. What? Comics and conversation, y'all.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers, a comics industry business podcast with
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower and W. Dal Bush.
W. Dal Bush.
Dal Bush.
Del Bush.
Dal.
Del.
W. Dal Bush.
For completely un-comic book related reasons, the name of this episode number 707 of Contest of Challengers, a comics industry business podcast from Challengers Comics Conversation in Chicago. I misspoke on Conversation. I said it wrong. And also paused because I was about to say on the Yak Channel Podcast Network, which we haven't been a part of in a very long time.
Incorrect. Yeah.
Anyway. And known probably only to me, the name of this episode is Megaforce.
Megaforce. Classic Power Rangers reference.
Strike the drums. Stand up and shout. It's only rock and roll. That's what it's all about.
Mm.
Which is a lyric to Fraley's Comet song called Calling to You.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the connection.
Oh,
that's why it's called Megaforce.
Excellent. I was so curious.
The tie is Tod Howarth.
Oh, obviously.
Yeah.
Duh.
Specifically, Tod Howarth's previous band.
Which, I mean, I don't need to say it out loud. We all know who you're talking about.
Yeah, of course I do.
Yeah.
I mean, of course I don't. Of course we do.
Yeah.
I don't even know what's happening anymore.
Hello.
What are we talking about?
Comic books, industries, businesses, podcasts.
I didn't have permission to tell this story, so I'll leave the name of the store out. But we'll probably be talking a lot about Absolute Batman today.
Yes.
And
probably DC All In, since we're now 2 weeks into the month of DC All In.
And
as seen on AEW Dynamite.
Yes, and Albert Ching had a pretty great reference.
Yeah. I mean, I saw the email, but I don't remember the reference.
Oh no, this wasn't an email.
Because in the DC email this week, they were like, "Hey, we were on AEW Dynamite," and I kind of went, "I know, I watch AEW Dynamite, but this is pretty cool."
Okay, so I'm going to make a gesture. I'm going to start with a saying and make a gesture, and you're going to fill in the final word. Ready? It's all about the
Budge.
No.
Oh,
do it right.
Boom.
Let's start again. It's all about the
boom
tube.
Okay.
Come on, that's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Arun had suggested that Adam Cole Bebe says it's all about DC, and Albert said, "No, it's all about the boom tube."
There you go.
Yeah. That's good. That's real good.
That's good.
Anyway, a store that we're friendly with had a sign on the counter for their Absolute Batman #1 sales, where they were limiting to 1 copy per person. Absolute Batman #1 is sold out. DC has already announced and gone through, before it even comes out, a second printing, and has now announced the third printing.
Yeah, the book has been out for a week, and they're already FOCing a third print. Like, the second print FOC'd before the book even came out.
And a lot of the retailer groups online are filled with people saying, "I need this book. Does anybody have this book?" So this particular store had a limit 1 per person. And the very first person who comes up to the counter says, "I know it says 1 per person. Can I get 2?
Everybody.
And then They had.
Do you have a friend who can't make it into the store? Oh no!
They're getting it for their nephew.
Uh-huh.
It's always a nephew. And then they had one of their speculators hassle them about the limit.
Mm-hmm.
Call back later disguising their voice.
Yes, hello.
And then come back later wearing a disguise.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now,
I wish I had that.
I
oh,
think
man.
the disguise was a joke.
I mean, the disguise might have just been like a hat and like a hood or something.
It was a full like sheet pulled over them.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Probably not true.
But like to make themselves look like a little old woman.
Sure, of course.
Yeah. But I think like it wasn't meant to actually fool anybody.
Okay.
Like it was a blatant like hee.
I don't know if I would let someone break the rules if they did something like that.
Yeah.
Like if it made me laugh, if I was like, this is like you put a lot of effort into this is pretty dumb, and it's all in service of getting an additional copy of a comic book, maybe I cave. But yeah, I would never cave to the like let me get indignant part of the conversation. Like, oh no, now you're definitely not getting it.
Quick question.
Patrick.
Do you remember when Jean-Paul Valley was Batman?
I do.
And what was his nickname?
Asbats.
So is this one Absbats?
Maybe. I mean, he's gigantic.
He's pretty cut.
He seems like he's got a lot of like yeah.
I mean, if you're gonna give him a nickname for a body part, it's obviously has to do with his thighs.
Sure. I mean, I will tell you that I do abbreviated Absbat when I'm writing it down on the edition sheet. When people say I want this added to my list, I go Absbat.
I do Absbats.
Okay.
And I just did that. I'm showing down my notes. I wrote Absbats.
I do Absbat, Abs WW, and then Abs. No one's said Superman yet, so I haven't figured out what I'll do for Superman yet. Soups. Abs Soups.
Right before I left my sheltered comic retail office to come to the podcastatorium to record this episode.
Sheltered?
I was working. Yeah, it's a
you make it
far away location,
but you make it sheltered makes it sound like you are
cut off from society,
kept away from the trivialities of the comics industry landscape. When clearly you're ensconced in them.
You know where my office is.
You have never told me.
It's far away from.
All you've told me is it's not here.
It's like all right, it's far away from.
I gather that
the general confines of Bucktown.
Yeah, that was true.
Anyway, I was working on the December orders,
as they're due this weekend.
Specifically, I'm still in the middle of DC, and it is such an eye-opening occurrence to be ordering books like the new Milestone book when we have.
I don't even remember which one that is.
One sub for it.
That's probably why I don't remember it.
Or the new Black Lightning book, where we have 0 subs for it. And all the new stuff like Question All Along the Watchtower or JSA, they're low numbers because people just don't pre-order stuff.
Yeah, we certainly saw it with, Absolute Batman, certainly. Where our initial order numbers were low, and then the FOC numbers got higher, and then the week of, everybody was adding it. And we've had people who are signing up for a subscription service specifically to get those books. So I think a lot of it is just, the closer you get to release, the more likely people are to add it. And it's such an uphill battle to get people 2 months out to put in a reservation for something when it feels so theoretical at that point. That said, Black Lightning and JSA FOC this week, if you're seeing 1s and 0s, oh boy, it's not great.
Yeah.
And speaking of the DC All-In month, one of the things that was really interesting to me about this month was that alongside launches, like the Absolute titles, and then in month 2, stuff like JSA, Black Lightning, Question,
Justice League Unlimited, there were also refreshes to every ongoing DC superhero book. So, Batman got an all-in issue with a new story arc,
same creators.
But the most detective-based story that Zdarsky has done, and
much more grounded than the multiversal, fail-safe Zur-En-Arrh stuff that he'd been doing for the last couple of years. The thing, though, that was most interesting was that they didn't renumber anything. They weren't relaunching any of the ongoing books, even if they were getting all new creative teams like Catwoman. they were just saying, here is the all-in issue. We put the all-in slug on it. We did this cool cover design to draw your eye to it. And they were really kind of gambling on the idea that you don't need to renumber everything just to draw on readers. Like, on an editorial side, they were making it clear that this is a good jumping on point. And on a retail level, they were making it easy for stores to take a risk on some of these books by allowing us to order bundles of 25 copies if we met a certain threshold of sales on the other covers at a lower cost. So, instead of getting 4 or 5 for the rack, you could maybe get 30 for the rack, knowing that the extra 25 had cost you so little that you'd only have to sell a few to make it all back.
Yeah.
And we did that for certain books like Action Comics, which was moving to a weekly format with work by Mark Waid and Clayton Henry. We did it with Batman, that was getting a new storyline, that we felt like that was a book that people had sort of slept on or checked out on, that maybe they would check back with the new all-in issue. We did it with Titans because I really liked that book and I thought it was a good, solid starter issue. We're going to be doing it for stuff like the Mikkel Yannon, Tom Taylor Detective Comics.
Yep.
Some other stuff. We didn't meet the threshold for everything. We had a really funny thing where the Superman issue 19, which is the first issue with Dan Mora on art alongside Josh Williamson, and the introduction of the Superwoman character, which is great, by the way. The issue's fantastic. I highly recommend people check it out. I think it's really, really good. That book's been good, and this is a great jumping on point, and it's arguably as good as it's ever been. But the match to get us to be able to order additional copies at a lower cost was tied to an issue of Batman Superman World's Finest, which is fine. We usually order more copies of Superman than we do Batman Superman World's Finest, except the one month where we had to order a ton of copies of a Maria Wolf variant for Maria Wolf. So the one issue that DC picked to tie it to was one that we ordered like 4 times what we would normally order for Batman Superman World's Finest. And so it's like, we'll get some extra copies of Superman 19, but not nearly as many as I wanted to, because they're costing us a regular cost. But anyway, here's the whole thing that was really surprising to me and disappointing. They absolutely did not sell as well because they were not number ones. The first couple weeks that we've been doing this, I have seen virtually no movement on any returning series that had an all-in issue. So that's Batman, that's Birds of Prey, that's I don't know, other stuff that had come out over the last couple weeks. Green Lantern,
Catwoman.
There was stuff in the first week, and I can't remember what else there was. But yeah, it was genuinely like people didn't see a number one. No matter how much we promoted it on social media, in emails, in store, if they didn't see a number one, they were just like, no thanks. So Absolute Batman, yes, they're on board. Regular Batman, no thanks.
And DC did a very similar cover design for all the covers, putting a white background, which traditionally white background covers sell better.
Yep. Yeah, so the disappointing thing so far in the first couple weeks of All-In month is that Absolute Batman, massive success. The DC All-In books, nobody cares besides the people who are reading them normally. So any of the refreshes, any of the outreach stuff, all of the promotion that we did, that DC did, deaf ears. Nobody cares.
Now, I do know that we sold one extra Catwoman this week to a subscriber that normally doesn't get Catwoman, but they also picked up older issues off the shelf from before the relaunch, or from before All In. So it really had nothing to do with that specifically. Yeah,
I mean, for the record, I'm mostly just talking about like the A covers of these books, which are some of the ones we got extra of, and those were like the ones that really say All In and jump on point.
Yeah.
And yeah, it didn't move the needle, and that super sucks. It's incredibly disappointing. Mostly because
you're not even DC. Imagine if you were DC.
Yeah, and well, I mean, it's frustrating for me because I mentioned a bunch of times, a lot of places, sometimes to people's faces, that I think these books are good and worth jumping onto, but people don't care, man.
We're even getting a little bit of pushback from Batman and Robin Year One.
Yeah, for real. And look, I mean, I can get it as far as like how people are coming at this financially. Like, it's easy for us to be like, holy shit, DC's great this month, but it's a little harder for people to be like, oh cool, I'll pick up $15 extra worth of comics this week. Maybe that's a bad value for them. Maybe they don't want to do it.
Well, look, we're paying for these books too.
Absolutely, but obviously we're selling them.
We're also spending a lot more money on DC product this month.
Yeah,
because
certainly
we
was a
believe in
gamble.
it and we think that ultimately people will enjoy these books.
Yeah, but I'll be perfectly honest with you. My next FOC orders for any of the first 2 weeks worth of All In stuff is going to reduce back down to what I was ordering in September.
When I've been dropping numbers as we go for December as well.
We tried. It's frustrating sometimes to feel like you were supported by a publisher, that as a store you did your job in trying to make a case to your customers,
and they did their job by making the books accessible,
right,
and easier for us to order.
Yeah, and we did, and we bought in, and we displayed them, and we hyped them, and people went, no thanks.
You know what happens when you buy in? You don't sell out.
I guess. So yeah, that's been a disappointing aspect of the first month of DC All In. However, Absolute Batman, everyone's loving it.
So going back to our ordering philosophy for Absolute Batman, because it was such a big book and such a, forgive the use of this phrase during this week, a paradigm shift for the Batman mythos.
A Death Rider, if you will.
We, in fact, went incredibly heavy.
Yes.
But what a lot of other retailers did is what we were just talking about earlier in this episode. When you don't have the pre-orders for it and you don't want to take a chance.
Sure. And
you don't want to get stuck.
Most retailers are conservative, and that usually means a lot of different things. But in this instance, they were conservative in the way that they didn't want to get caught with a bunch of unsellable books.
And I 1,000% understand that.
Sure. Again, we've got, you want some copies of Batman 154 or whatever the hell, 153, whatever the all-in issue was. I got a bunch. If any store out there is run out, I will ship them out to you at cost. You can have them.
It's a really, I say this all the time, but I think that in the, 33 and 34 years we've been doing this, it's harder to order books now than ever before, because there's more books than ever before. And you don't, I mean, back when we first started doing this, we didn't even have club numbers to pull from. It was all in our heads.
Yeah, I mean, we were largely basing that off of the other stores that we worked at and sort of our high expectations, which, needed to be reduced down significantly after the first couple months. But yeah, and look, I mean, the end of the day, the extra copies we got for these...
no, I'm talking about the beginning of our careers, not Challengers.
Oh, okay. I mean, well...
When there wasn't a subscription service...
Oh, I see what you're saying.
To base numbers off of.
Yeah, I mean, certainly that was a much different market. I mean, for me, I was taking over other stores each time, so I would have sales data at least that I could point to and go, okay, well, this is what we've been selling on these books, so I kind of understand what we would order next based on the overall health of the store and the trajectory of individual sales. But the main difference was the back issue market. So in general, I mean, you remember a time where you would absolutely order higher than your rack sales because you would want back issues. You'd want to be able, the lifetime sales of a book now is 2 to 3 weeks. Some books, it's literally 1 week. When you were starting out, it might have been several years. You would get copies of books from the headquarters store, from their back issue boxes, from collections they had, or from long boxes that were just full of X-Men #1.
I mean, we've talked about this on occasions, but
full of them. You
remember before sales, I'd be at the warehouse on the phone. You'd be at the store on the phone. X-Men 325. Do we need it?
Yeah, just stuff like that.
Just dig into what do we got? How many do we want? Okay, take these.
So the idea of, a Marvel book or a DC book, not selling out was great. That was the preference, was that you want to sell it at cover price, for a few months, and then you want to sell it at more than cover price for the next few years. The market isn't that anymore.
That's also a terrible name for a comic shop.
More than cover price?
More than cover price comics.
I mean, at least it tells you what you're going to pay.
Sure. Well, maybe it means that we've got all these cover price comics for sale.
We've got more than that.
We've got action figures.
Yeah. We've also got pop vinyls, and sometimes people quit stores because you have pop vinyls. Not our store, it's a different store. But yeah, I can sort of understand in the theoretical sense, taking a look at a new launch from a major publisher and saying, I don't know how much I want to stick my neck out on this.
Especially if you didn't read it.
But this is the thing that frustrates me about stores getting caught short on Absolute Batman #1. And look, before I get into any of this, I will allow for the fact that there's stores that probably ordered twice what we ordered and sold them way faster than we did. So even their high numbers, their non-conservative numbers, were insufficient, and their regrets now are that they didn't go even higher. And like, we've been there. Like, we ordered 1 million copies, it felt like, of Saga #1, but I wish we'd ordered 2 million.
Yeah.
But one of the frustrating things about some of this is the kind of skepticism and conservative ordering of a lot of stores on this particular book feels really like a self-inflicted wound. Because again, much like DC All-In Month, DC did a lot of work to make sure this was as easy as possible for retailers to get behind it and make money on it and meet their customers' demands on it. Like, one, they gave us all the PDF preview. Marvel doesn't do that generally. If you know the upcoming Ryan North, RB Silva Doom series that's coming out in like February or whatever, I know they're going to give us a page of that.
I'd not heard of that.
We'll talk about that later. But DC gave us Absolute Batman #1 and like a letter from Scott Snyder talking about Absolute Batman #1 in advance of FOCing Absolute Batman #1. So you could read it as a retailer and go, oh, okay, this is great, and I know who this is going to sell to, and I know what I want to order. And look, maybe people read it and thought it didn't work, and they were surprised that people cared about it. But I feel like the book is so good and has been so universally embraced that if you didn't like it for some reason, that's kind of a you problem at that point. Like, and I don't mean that in a, agree to disagree. I mean, you genuinely have to start looking at your internal metric for what's good or bad if you thought this thing was going to not sell.
I guarantee you there's a contingent of retailers who didn't like the design, hate the chess symbol, didn't read the preview, and just thought, this is dumb.
Sure, and I guarantee you're right. People thought that, but again, like, my point is, if that's you need to take a long, hard look at how you're running your business, because that's like saying, well, I don't like manga, so I'm not going to carry manga. And it's like, well, holy shit, like, good luck making money. Good luck, getting your customers what they want, because there's a point where you as a retailer have to kind of disconnect from your own enjoyment of comics as a medium and start to look at it a little bit more like, is this going to sell to people, and how many people do I think it's going to sell to? And if you can't read Absolute Batman #1 and go, holy shit, a lot of people are going to want to read this, that is a problem that you as a retailer need to correct. There's a bunch of books we carry a lot of copies of that I don't even read anymore because they are not for me. I don't like them. That doesn't mean I'm not going to carry them. And it doesn't mean I don't understand why they sell. I get why they sell. I don't like them, though. That's two different things. But DC gives us Absolute Batman #1 as a PDF. So any retailer who wanted to could read a copy of it in advance of ordering it and understand what it is and who it's going to sell to. DC made the book available at a lower cost past a certain threshold, and that threshold was relative to the launch of Absolute Batman #1, a heavily hyped launch from DC Comics, very, very easy of a target to hit. We hit it without even trying. And so we got to get a whole bunch of extra copies at a lower cost, making it more profitable for us to carry a ton of copies because we weren't expending a ton of extra money to get them. We were expending way less than we would normally spend to get extra copies in. So we ordered a ton of copies. Again, this is all DC doing everything they possibly could to get stores to have copies available when people came in to buy them.
That's the goal.
Yeah. It is weird for me to hear so many retailers being like, holy shit, we underordered this. Like, what else could DC have done at this point other than, like, on the day of release, when your doors opened, having Johnny DC throw copies into the store, like cases of copies into your store. Like that, I guess DC probably could have done. I don't know how they would have managed it, but I guess that's the extra step they could have done beyond everything else DC did to make sure that stores would have a lot of copies of this book. This did not seem like a mystifying thing to me. Absolute Batman #1, you didn't think that thing was going to sell?
Now, I don't know specifics of how Chicago-based stores are selling it, but I do know we've been getting a ton of people who are not regulars
Yep.
coming in for this book, and 1 million online orders
Yep.
for this book, which is great in the short term, but these people aren't going to come back and buy Absolute Batman #2 online from us. Or probably not.
Probably
like
not,
the
but who
people that are
knows?
coming in. I mean, I don't know. We did have a bunch of people sign up on Managed Comics
Mhm.
for not subscriptions per se, but
Bunch of pre-orders.
a bunch of pre-orders for.
I mean, sometimes I think
other
that's just people who are
issues.
gonna get pre-orders every month, but they just don't.
That's
want,
fine.
Like they
That's
don't
fine.
want a subscription to A. They want A and B this month, but
Sure.
B and C next month.
That's fine.
Yeah.
So long as that's how they understand it, that's great.
Yeah.
Love it. What it's there for. I think it's the window banner.
I don't think it's not the window banner. I think the window banner was a really smart idea.
Thanks. I mentioned that because I'm the one that did the window banner. We almost never do window banners for product.
For comic launches, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, usually if it's something that is more media oriented, like if a celebrity is doing a comic, we might do a window thing saying like, hey, we've got the Taylor Swift written Dazzler comic. She's not. That was not a New York Comic Con.
I did not think it was, but I also don't want you getting people's hopes up.
But that would be the sort of thing we would do a banner for.
Also, I'm people.
And we don't normally do it for like, oh, there's a new Spider-Man comic coming out
Yeah.
by normal comic
You're not
creators.
going to see our 8 Deaths of Spider-Man window banner.
No.
Or sometimes if an event is too big, we're not going to do a window banner for it. For example, I'm a little trepidatious about this weekend. And by the time anybody hears this podcast, it'll all be over.
One way or the other.
Yeah. But we have a very large signing coming up that I've mentioned on the podcast that it wouldn't happen. But we have Aimee Garcia and AJ Mendez coming in to sign Day of the Dead Girl #1.
Mm-hmm.
And we love them as people. They've signed with us before. AJ has shopped with us a bunch.
Mm-hmm.
We are her local store. The majority of the people that are coming to this event do not care about the comic that they are being forced to buy to meet these celebrities.
Yeah, it's a shame. That's usually the frustrating thing when we have like a celebrity who's also a comic creator. That it feels like people are reluctantly engaging with the comic creator aspect of it, and that's the thing that is most important to us, and that's the thing that we most want. Like we want to get this book into their fans' hands so that they get a chance to see what else they're doing creatively. So it's not just, the performances they've done on television or, the other things they've written. Like we want to kind of emphasize like this is the comic book, and we're excited about them doing their own comic book, them creating their own concept instead of working on someone else's IP and making something that's just theirs. And that's hopefully people appreciate that.
And we have to have a significant number of rules for this event.
Oh, yeah.
Last time they signed for us, they signed all day.
Mm-hmm.
This time we have them for 2 hours.
Yes.
So that means we're not going to get nearly as many people through the line as we did last time. And we're making it faster.
Yeah.
Specifically,
we're focusing more on the autographs and less on the pictures and stuff, which is
Yeah.
a lot of people, they always want pictures. They want pictures with the
Sure,
celebrities.
I get
And
it.
It's like,
I get it.
sure.
But I mean, that's why most of these people do photo ops, paid photo ops at conventions.
right. And even those are usually done separate from
A signing.
the signing because they need two different ways to kind of make them go quickly. If you do the signature and then I got to stand up and take a picture, like you're doing half as much of either one now.
So without going into all the rules, because
It's already happened.
it's already happened.
By the time you've heard this, it's too
Sure.
late.
A lot of these rules, like Dal and I had a talk ahead of time of how we would do it, and we had our own plans. And then when talking with Magma, the publisher of this book, their rules coincided with what we were going to be doing anyway.
Yeah.
But what we're getting, and this goes back to the very first thing we talked about in this episode, is the people that are like, yeah, but what about me?
Yeah. How do I get around these rules? What are the
And
exceptions?
the number of people that have reached out to us for special treatment is always disappointing.
Yeah.
But what it comes down to is this. We don't have the ability to make these people do more work.
Yeah.
They're doing us the favor by being here.
We're lucky they're even in our store
Yeah.
for 2 hours.
We have to follow their rules, Thus, you have to follow their rules.
Yeah.
I don't have the ability to break their rule for you because you want something extra, regardless of what you're going to give me, because I'm not the person that should benefit from this. It should be them.
Yeah.
Or the number of people that are like, hey, we want to get AJ on our wrestling show. Can you like talk to her for us? No.
I'm not. We're not her manager.
Yeah,
she
they
has
have
management.
people. They have people.
I don't understand a lot of the celebrity autograph culture. There's almost nobody on this planet that I would go out and get a signature from, like a TV actor or a wrestler or anything.
I know
like
you
that.
said on this planet.
Yeah.
So that doesn't count Optimus Prime.
He's sometimes on this planet.
Yeah, but he's not from this planet, so.
That's true. But if he's on this planet, it would still be somebody I would not go see. He was at Navy Pier and I didn't go see him, like last year.
The actual Optimus Prime?
Well, a giant Optimus Prime was at Navy Pier. I didn't go.
Oh, so it wasn't it was a Optimus Prime.
I didn't go. I don't know which one it was.
Oh, that's fair.
Anyway.
I guess you answered the question. You would not go.
I think being able to get the comic signed by both creators and then one additional item for each creator, I think that's great. Why would you ever need more than that?
Right.
Like, okay, you're a fan of Aimee Garcia. Get something signed by Aimee Garcia. Why do you need 2 or 3 things signed by Aimee Garcia? You're not meeting her 3 times. You're meeting her 1 time. Get one thing signed. You had the interaction. You have a thing to show that you had the interaction. That feels great. Like, what more could you possibly want? And I mean, I guess the answer for a lot of stuff is more to sell online. But it's like, if that's the answer, then of course it's going to be no. Of course we're limiting you.
Yeah, it's all going to be wrestling memorabilia.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much.
So AJ had, I'm sure, a few figures from. Why do you need all of the figures signed? Why not just get one figure signed? Here's the figure I got signed by AJ when I met her at Challengers Comics. Why would you need that and then a trading card and then also a belt and like no one thing? You had one interaction. Drives me crazy. And I think I mentioned to you that like anytime we have wrestlers in the store, the whole process is always more aggravating than it needs to be. There's something about wrestling fans in particular that are so difficult to deal with as a store. Like when we have comic creators, even big names, it's like there's an understanding of how this all works. Come in, you get in line, you get your stuff signed. It can even be multiple things because they're just scribbling their name on a comic book. We're done here. And they're there for a set number of hours. Hopefully you buy something new that we have for the event. You probably don't, because as I was talking to somebody earlier this week, the bigger a name, the more likely people are to have that stuff at home and not need or want the new thing. Like we could, if we had Mike Mignola for the upcoming Bowling with Corpses, we could say like, hey, we've got Bowling with Corpses and he's here signing it. Everyone's going to bring their Hellboy comics from home.
But, sorry, that was loud. But if we were a bookstore and doing a signing for Bowling with Corpses, what's the rule?
You have to buy the book.
You have to buy the book.
And honestly, if we had Mike Mignola, we would probably be like, you have to buy the graphic novel.
That's
Because
fair.
I know that you have Cosmic Odyssey at home that you want to get signed, but the financials of this thing don't work if you come in and get like only Fafhrd and the Grey Mouse are signed. Like that doesn't work for us. But anyway, getting back to the wrestling thing, there's something about wrestling fans where it just feels like they are so much more, the polite way of saying it is engaged. The impolite way of saying it is feral. And I don't mean that like our upcoming feral signing that's happening in November. I mean the amount of like interest is we have to spend so much time pushing back against it in a way we don't have to for any other event.
Yeah.
Like we have to spend more time telling you what not to do when we have a wrestler in the store than we do enticing you to come meet the wrestler.
And one of the things that bugs me about that is that it leads to people having less good of a time because they didn't get the extra stuff they wanted.
Right.
When the fact is they got to meet these people that you normally wouldn't get a chance to.
Yeah, I don't want to use the word ungrateful, but I think I just said it out loud. That said, most of my experiences, the few times that I've talked to people who've gone to events that we've had with wrestlers, is overwhelmingly positive.
Sure.
They're like our regulars who go to these things are grateful and they're excited. and it's a special memory for them, and that's great, and that's what we want. But yeah, like much like with things like Free Comic Book Day, there's usually a few people that are so selfish with it that it just ruins it kind of for us, and maybe for other people, but we'll see. But like the young woman who met CM Punk at the Thor signing, Core Jade, cried.
Yeah,
had a real emotional moment.
Sure,
she's a professional wrestler
now,
and she's on television shows.
Yes,
and, taking bumps. I think that's what they call it in wrestling terms.
Just came back from a major injury.
So like that's a thing that event, you know, we have a regrets on, and there's ways that now we would have done it very differently.
Yes, mainly for CM Punk's own sanity.
Right. But she had a good time, and she had clearly like an emotional
What do you
connection
mean good
moment.
time? She was bawling.
Were they happy tears? Wait, was she
No,
sad tears? Was she like, did she get a splinter? I don't
if
know.
If a woman is there
room.
crying, I'm not going to go up to her. And
I wasn't in that
Why
room.
are you crying? There's no crying in
I
comic
was in
books
the
or
other
wrestling.
room. So yeah,
and it's a lot of work. We have to completely dismantle sidekicks and lose sidekick sales for most of the day.
Yeah, on a Saturday, which is rough.
Yeah.
It's a big day for sidekick sales.
But we do have the event exclusive cover that people have to buy for this. One of the drawbacks to the event is that we get our Magma books from Lunar, and Lunar doesn't get Day of the Dead Girl till next week, where Diamond accounts got it this week.
Yeah, for us, the on-sale date for the A cover of Dawn of the Dead Girl is the
23rd.
Wednesday after the signing.
Yeah.
Which is sort of a bummer. But luckily, Magma was able to work with us and get us the event copies, which is a little cooler. Also,
yeah.
I think it's neat.
It's a more special thing. And
yeah. So, I mean, all the complaints aside, I hope it was a good event. I hope people who attended it had a good time and again, had some positive memories from it. I hope the talent had an enjoyable time and weren't too stressed out. I hope Patrick and all of the people working on Saturday had a good time. I hope I was able to put a lot more hours into Zenless Zone Zero. That's what I'm really hoping for. A bunch of agent missions I haven't done yet. And trying to get Bernice. She's the S-ranked agent. It's exclusive for the next 18 days.
Yeah, it's true. One of our biggest store signings ever in Dow's video gaming.
I offered.
I don't remember that.
Yes, you do.
Don't. I remember you saying, I'm not coming in, right? Right? I'm not coming in, right?
I believe I said my phone will be turned off.
You had to come in the last 2 Saturdays.
I did. It's true. I did an event 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah. Of course, you only had to come in last Saturday, so I could give you a ride to an event, but
that's true.
It wasn't work related. You just had to be where I was.
Yes, I had to get to where you were so I could get in your car and you could drive to a place that we were both going to.
Well, I hope the event went well. You mentioned that there's extra staff for Saturday, and there has to be because we have so many extra people and there's so many other things and
moving parts.
Even now I realize there's nobody blocking people from coming into Sidekicks from Challengers because we're opening the outside door to make this work like we have on Free Comic Book Day.
Yeah.
But I don't want to staff someone just to stand at the door so people don't come in.
Sure.
And we're not staffing someone for photos. You have to do that yourself. You have to take selfies. Fine. But talking about staff, one of the things with staff at comic shops is, for the most part, the people that work at comic stores stay for a long time.
They do. It's true.
And that's not a Challengers thing. That's an everywhere thing. You know,
unless you work Sundays with me, turnover there very high, rapid.
Yeah, I mean,
like a turnstile. Man, oh man.
There's very few instances in the history of Challengers where we've had to let anybody go. And a lot of the people that we've had have been with us for well over 10 years.
Yeah.
And we're losing Samantha Challenger. Samantha Challenger, who has been with us since before Challengers existed.
Our secret employee.
But even that was later in the run. Sam and Marcus, who I used to work with, I hired them to help us that week we were setting up the store. So they helped build out Challengers. I remember Sam and my mom working on all those header cards that we no longer use.
The release
Arrival
date backer cards.
Yeah. But like they both gave us that week.
That was nice.
Yeah. But after And then Sam came on, I want to say, October, November of that year. But, as I told her, on every Challenger's first day, there's a little thing in the back of our heads where we're like, they can't stay forever.
No.
Nobody can.
No.
Maybe even you and I can't.
We'll see.
Who knows? But we can't expect anybody to stay for forever.
No.
And, the other people we had in the early days, they're gone.
Yeah.
But, life happens. People move on.
Shit, one of them just popped back up.
Yeah, I know, right? Lives in a different state. Came by to say hi to their best pal, Dal.
That is not the way I remember it.
So, yeah, Sam's moving on. So thank you, Samantha, for
Thanks, Sam.
16 years, give or take, a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And before anybody thinks like, oh, what are they going to do? It's already covered.
Mm-hmm.
The once and future challenger, Donovan, is returning. And it'll just be like a seamless transition.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, Donovan, if you've come in at any free comic book days the last several years, you've probably seen Donovan behind the counter. Unless something else was going on that day and she just couldn't do it.
Well, Donovan was a consistent challenger for over 10 years.
Sure. But I think for most people, like, if they've seen her
recently, anyway,
it would have been free comic book day. There's been other days that she's pitched in here and there, but free comic book days were the most amount of people who shop at Challengers and work at Challengers might have seen her.
It's true. Everyone who works at Challengers also shops at Challengers.
It's true.
Yeah. Every single one of them. That is a prerequisite. That is how we hire them.
Yeah, you get mad at Andrew when he buys stuff on other places.
When we have it on the shelf, come on.
Uh-huh.
Come on.
Come on.
Come on. Hey, the Marvel versus DC omnibuses are in 2 weeks.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Golly.
We're getting some from PRH.
That's a shipment. Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's weird.
We're getting 4 from PRH.
It's super weird. I don't know why that would be.
It even said DC Comics in the publisher field.
Yeah, all right. That sucks. We pay more for those.
Yeah. Free shipping, though.
Yeah, that's true.
And they'll be heavy. I just hope that it wasn't a system double order, like, oh, we had 4 pre-orders for this.
Maybe, yeah. Because, well, no, it shouldn't. It shouldn't have been because we don't do our DC FOCs through Penguin Random House. So it shouldn't have been able to. But, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, there was an instance where I ordered a very specific book for my sister for Christmas, which is why I won't say out loud what it is. Mm-hmm. And we got it from Diamond and PRH.
Sure. But I think the problem there was that when you were uploading the initial order to Diamond, it was in there. Because Managed Comics doesn't look at that particular publisher as something that you can split between places.
Okay.
So you probably ordered one from Penguin Random House because it was a publisher we get from Penguin Random House.
I didn't, because I don't do the Penguin Random House orders. You do. All I did was put it on my account.
Okay.
Yeah. And the same thing with that other ridiculous thing that I can't say what it is because it's a Christmas present for somebody, but we got another extra game.
Oh, yeah.
That I didn't order 2 different ones. But those both came from Diamond.
Mm-hmm.
Same day or 2 weeks apart?
Same day.
That's weird.
Same day, same invoice.
That's super weird. Yeah. Anyway. So there's that. Hey, Dal, as we are talking, literally as we sit here and we talk, it is the New York Comic Con
NYCC.
happening now. They've already had a bunch of announcements, things that we knew about, like Lucky Devils from Charles Soule E. and Ryan Brown E.
Silent E Productions.
Which is their take on the devils that sit on your shoulders and try to corrupt you little by little. Mm-hmm. But these 2 devils are trying to buck the system. Mm-hmm. And it's a 9-issue series where each issue is a different circle of hell. Mm-hmm. So we knew about that one already. They announced Jason Aaron and Mahmoud Asrar's new... Oops, sorry. Put my hand over the microphone. New 6-issue Image miniseries, Bug Wars.
Mm-hmm. Bug Wars.
Which has nothing to do with the Micronaut bug.
Okay.
As far as I can tell.
Still give it a read.
Sure. What have I missed?
That's a good question. Let me take a look.
Well, I'll start with, you know how DC's compact comics are a huge seller for us. And
Yeah.
almost all completely out of print right now.
Yes.
In between printings, I should say. Marvel is doing their own version of them, the Marvel Premiere Collection. They are the same size, the same format. They're $15 a piece.
Because Marvel.
Yeah, but the one thing that they don't do that I wish they did was how DC's leaning into genre.
Yes, like DC's thing is
marketing of
they're
these
doing
books.
a bunch of superhero stuff, but they don't call them superhero. They use the same genre terminology that you might have at like an airport bookstore, because that's kind of what the intended market is for something like this. Like if you watch the commercials that they put together for the DC Compact Comics, it's all about, hey, you can just put this thing in a bag and then take it wherever you go. So, you can easily put it in a carry-on bag and then have it on a plane. And it's the duration of it is like, you will read this during a flight and be done with it.
Yeah.
Um,
It'll make it $10 so you don't care if you leave it behind.
Yeah, or if it gets damaged in your bag or whatever. But like the genres they pick for everything, like Far Sector is science fiction. All-Star Superman is science fiction. Batman Court of Owls is thriller. They're not saying, like we would put all that in on the superhero section. They're saying
superhero is not a genre.
Yeah, they're saying, no, we're going to use things like fantasy, science fiction, crime, mystery, thriller, like those sort of designations. But Marvel isn't doing that. They're just saying, like, here's a cheap Black Panther graphic novel. The first batch of them, how far do I gotta go back to find this?
I can do it. The very first one is Daredevil Born Again by Frank Miller and David Mazzucchelli.
That's a good one.
And the next one they do is the Ta-Nehisi Coates Black Panther. And then they have a Jonathan Hickman curated Fantastic Four one, which I'm not entirely sure what it covers.
Well, they mention it's like there's like 18 issues that it's drawn from.
But it's not like one story.
Correct. Yeah, so Daredevil Born Again, Black Panther Nation Under Our Feet by Ta-Nehisi Coates and Brent Stelfreeze, Captain America Winter Soldier by Edward Baker and Steve Epting, and then the Hickman Fantastic Four collection. I think the designs for the Marvel Premiere collections are solid. It looks a little bit like the Penguin Random House.
That's exactly what I was thinking of, yeah.
What do they call those? Penguin Classics?
Yeah.
A little bit like those. Yeah, the Fantastic Four one, they mention it is collects material from Fantastic Four 570 to 588. So 19 issues. There's some stuff in there.
I just got a notification that a new episode of The Devil's Hour is out. And The Devil's Hour is a Peter Capaldi series that I started watching about 2 years ago and loved it.
Now there's a new episode.
And just like 2 days ago, I thought, are they ever going to do more of that? Because it ended on an incredible cliffhanger, but it's been 2 years.
2 years, it stops now.
And I guess it's back.
Yeah, what a treat for you tonight.
Right? Well, no, it's Prime, so I need to wait.
Oh, okay.
I have to wait until they're all out.
There was one, so the next announcement from Marvel Comic Books. Patrick, do you want to take this one?
Yes, I do. Ultimate Wolverine. Ultimate Wolverine is a new book coming out from Marvel. And I say it that way because in the email and press release, they misspelled the word Wolverine and spelled it Wolverine twice.
Pretty weird. It's written by Chris Condon, who wrote that Texas Blood.
And is currently writing the new Green Arrow from DC.
Correct. The art is, I can never remember his name, Alessandro Capuccio, who is the artist for Moon Knight for the last, 4 years.
Yeah.
And probably not anymore.
Also, I had not seen that design before, and what the hell is that? Oh, it's a Wolverine costume, but instead of being brown, it's red.
Well, and apparently it's got a red star on the front, and they
an
point
X.
out that he's got a muzzle on because he's the maker's
He's rabid.
assassin man, rabbit animal man, rocket raccoon. Yeah, that's coming out in February, I believe.
Okay.
You'll first see the Ultimate Wolverine in Ultimate Universe 1 year in. It's coming out in a month.
You better order more now. It's first appearance.
January, by the way. Ultimate Wolverine #1. What else? Okay, this was the thing I was mentioning earlier. Ryan North, RB Silva, this February. Rise of Emperor Doom.
Okay.
It is part of One World Under Doom, which is a larger storyline they'll be doing throughout the year 2025. This is a 5-issue series.
Okay.
Dr. Doom comes out from under the dome that he erected over Latveria,
Uh-huh.
instantly takes over the world.
Sure. As one does.
The heroes have to work against him.
Do you think he's being assisted by Dinosaur Doom from that Fantastic Four story?
You got to think that character's going to show up, right?
I mean,
You
I hope
have
so.
to.
However, what have we learned about Dooms? There can only be one. He can't work well with other Dooms.
That's what the Council of Dooms found out.
Yep.
So that looks really good. I've really enjoyed the Ryan North Fantastic Four stuff, and obviously people are clamoring for more Doctor Doom stuff. So I think this is a good... it seems like it's going to be both a good book in February and also a successful book.
Yes.
So that's always nice when those two things can coincide. And then finally, this is probably the worst thing to talk about on a podcast because you can't see it. What do we want to say about this?
Oh, man. I'm glad you brought it up because it is something that you and I
Luckily, we're doing
discussed.
this on a Thursday, by the way, so there's not a lot of comic book news coming out of New York Comic Con. I'm sure next
Sure.
episode we'll be doing a lot more. So that's the entirety of what we have to talk about from New York Comic Con.
IDW Publishing, Idea Design Works. They just celebrated, was it their 25th anniversary?
25th.
Yeah. And their symbol has always been like a light bulb with an eye in it, like an eyeball.
Okay.
It sometimes been sketchy, sometimes it's been very slick, but it's a distinct brand. So because they're restructuring and they've, like Oni, they're a completely different company top to bottom.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be focusing more on horror and imprints and IPs and whatever.
And Turtles. I'm honestly surprised that their logo isn't like the 4 turtle heads.
Yeah. So they have a new logo, and in the press release for this logo, they talked about the hundreds of designs they went through and how they really wanted to be forward-thinking and have a design that represents looking ahead, but also connected to their roots and all the normal like PR BS you'd put.
It's all buzzwords and it's all like empty stuff.
And the designer for this logo is just their art director.
Okay.
It's terrible.
It's so bad. It's almost illegible in the sense of like you had to show it to me and I'm like, I don't know what this is.
Yeah, I said, hey Dal, what is this? What company is this?
I literally
it looks like it says ID.
I didn't even get that. I'm like, once you see it, once you're told it's IDW, you're like,
you can kind
you're
of
like,
get
all right,
it.
that's the I, that's the D, that's the W. But it is so overthought and difficult to pull the individual letters out of the design that it is terrible. It's worse than having no logo at all.
Yeah.
It's bad.
It's so bad that it's concepts that I would have worked with in college and been laughed out of class. And I immediately I'm like, wait, why don't they just, because there's a weird like slash going through it. I'm like, but if they did that slash from where the top of the D connects to the middle prong, that could at least separate it so it's like a W.
Yeah.
Like that one little thing would make it a little bit more legible as 3 separate letters and not 2. Everyone should look up IDW new logo
2024.
Yeah, and Google that and see just how awful it is. And you know what?
You're going to see one and you're going to scroll past it because you're going to think, no, I want the IDW Comics one. And it's like, no, that was it. That was the one.
What are the hundreds of ideas that were rejected?
The IDW Bullet. They wanted it, and then DC took it back. I'm like, God damn it!
I mean, this is the total, like logo design 101. It's
hilariously bad.
It's a parallelogram reaching up to the right corner, which to me, I always think of the word apex. Like if you design the word apex, you're doing it on a diagonal that goes up, and the top right point has to be the highest because it's rising.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what this is.
Bad.
And it's so like
bad.
logo 101 basic. And like they didn't need a new logo.
Nope. Somebody at the company clearly wanted one.
Yeah, and look, if by any chance the person who designed that is listening to this podcast, you know what you did.
Yeah, I don't want to hurt anyone.
Are you proud of that?
I don't want to hurt an individual's feelings, but I do want to point out, like, this is an ineffective logo. It's bad. It's a bad logo.
Imagine that on a comic.
I can't.
Now, one of the things I noticed about the Marvel Premiere Collections, that's the first time I've seen the Marvel Comics logo on a book.
Okay.
Where it had the word comics after it.
Yeah.
I just wonder if they're using that moving forward. I'm like, that works in that context. I don't see how it works on a comic book.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll see it in 2025 on their books. It's a real interesting question. Maybe. I think it's possible.
Was that the extent of your DC, or I'm sorry, your NYCC announcements?
It was, yeah. Like I said, we're only in, as we're recording this, we're only in Thursday for New York Comic Con.
Sure.
The bulk of announcements will come out Friday and Saturday from major publishers and minor publishers. Companies like Image will sometimes, like Patrick said, have some rollouts in advance because they know that a lot of their bigger stuff might get lost in the noise of Friday and Saturday. But yeah, we don't just have a lot right now. Next episode, I'm sure we'll do a ton of NYCC recap.
Yeah, also we couldn't hold off recording this one because of the Saturday event.
Yeah, it's just a busy. I mean, we usually record on a Thursday, so this is not out of the question. We didn't bump it up or anything. We just made sure that it got done.
They have announced the location for next year's Comics Pro annual meeting.
Oh yeah, where?
And once again, I don't know if I'm allowed to say it or not because I don't know if it's been. I mean, it was on a.
Yeah, I mean, if you read it someplace.
Yeah. I'm just going to tell it to you in 3 letters. SCU.
Oh. Rancho Cucamonga, California?
I'm just saying Southern California.
Oh, okay.
Not saying where specifically.
Okay.
That could be interesting.
I mean, is it still in the same time of year that it usually is?
Yeah.
That sounds like a good time to go.
Yeah. At this point in time, I would have to say there's no way we can go.
Yeah, I wouldn't close the door on it, but yeah, I mean, if
Right.
you're asking me in October, the answer is no.
Right, but I mean, like if they're saying, hey, like early bird membership is now, pass.
Yeah, we can.
That's not a.
We can take a wait and see.
That's not a Comics Pro thing. That's a Challengers thing.
Right.
Dal, did you read any previews this week?
I did. I mean, I read Black Lightning #1.
Okay, I didn't read that yet. Let's instead talk about G.I. Joe.
Let's talk about G.I. Joe
We
#1.
both read G.I.
We
Joe
did.
#1. I didn't read Black Lightning, so we can't talk about it.
I think it's incredibly funny. So we got a redacted preview for G.I. Joe #1, which means the last 2 or 3 pages were blacked out. And I think it's incredibly funny because they might as well have put on the blacked out pages that a major character shows up. Because it's like...
the fact that they're blacked out leads
know,
you to believe
I know what happens.
Maybe the blacked out pages were the clues.
Like... You could say that. I mean, like, I think a good way to kind of drive enthusiasm and excitement is, ooh, it's a secret. Like, yeah, but it's not much of a secret. So now it's like, oh, now I know what the secret is.
Yeah.
It's like when everyone from Marvel Studios said that Taylor Swift was not in Deadpool Wolverine 3, and then we're like, oh, now we know that she is. No, she wasn't.
Wait, so you're telling me the Storm Shadow is not in G.I. Joe #1?
Actually, I think I am telling you this. That's not G.I. Joe #1.
I mean, I read G.I. Joe #1. I know he's not in it.
He's not in it. Yeah, I like G.I. Joe #1. It's by Josh Williamson, who did Cobra Commander and Duke, the first 2 of the 4 G.I. Joe prequel miniseries. It absolutely pulls together threads from all of those books. More so, Duke, Cobra Commander, and Destro, not a ton from Scarlet, although who knows what's in the blacked out pages.
True.
Yeah, I've liked all of the G.I. Joe prequel stuff that they've been doing at Skybound. It's the first time I've really been connected to that franchise since I was a child. I haven't really done a lot of the IDW stuff before this, despite being huge into the IDW Transformer stuff. But I've liked all the Skybound Hasbro stuff that's been coming out. I've kept up with all of it, which is kind of surprising to me. And I like G.I. Joe #1. If you like Duke, it's pretty much more Duke.
Yeah, it's the continuation of the Duke story.
It's that creative team, and now, Cobra Commander's in it, and Destro's in it, and other characters from Cobra and Joe are in it.
Would it have killed you to say Cobra Commander is in it?
Yep.
Oh, I don't want you to die.
Thanks. I liked it. I thought it was a good comic book, and certainly if you've been reading the G.I. Joe stuff, you will not be disappointed in it.
As a lifelong Marvel Comics reader, not Marvel Comics life, my life, I do in fact, or maybe I do, I don't know.
Have owned at one point.
The entirety of the original Marvel G.I. Joe run.
All 155 issues?
Yeah.
Jesus,
So,
really?
so I'm familiar with those Joes, but I like that this is a completely different team.
I mean, I like that it's different in certain ways. Like it is very much like it's Duke and Stalker and Clutch, like real early, like year one Joes, but also like Baroness is on the team. And also one of the great things about having the PDF preview is there's a couple bits in Russian, and because it's a PDF, I could highlight them and it would translate it for me. And it's like, oh, this is really funny. So if you have
I did not do that.
It's not like it does translate into what makes sense in the scene. It's not like you translate it and it's like, hey, thanks for reading Skybound's G.I. Joe #1. Like it is legitimate dialogue.
So there's a point where she's answered back and then she's shocked.
Yes.
So she's shocked that she's being talked to in her own language.
Yeah. I basically, like, without getting too much into it, Baroness threatens a character.
Yeah.
In Russian, and the other character answers, and she thinks she's getting one over on them because she's doing it in Russian. And the other character answers back much longer in Russian in a way that puts her in her place. And it's like, oh, this is really clever. It was a good use of that trope.
What actor's accent do you hear in your head for her?
For Baroness?
Yeah.
Natasha from Bullwinkle.
Okay. Not from Black Widow.
No.
You don't hear Florence Pugh?
No, I mean if it was anybody, it would probably have been Rachel Weisz.
Okay.
Probably. But I didn't hear any of them.
Okay.
For Baroness, I've always heard like Natasha from Boris and Natasha. I don't know if that's right or wrong.
Are they hunting a moose and or a squirrel?
In G.I. Joe #1?
Yeah.
No.
Then it might be wrong.
Oh, no.
Also, I knew the answer to that because I read that book.
You did. That's why I was surprised by the question.
That was a general question for the audience.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is it's going to be a big launch for Skybound.
A million covers.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I'm not crazy about. When I see that the cover letters go up to R, man, come on.
Yeah.
I don't think that's necessary. And let me tell you flat out, we're not going to be carrying most of those for the shelf.
Right. We can't.
I mean, a lot of them are open order covers, but like, I'm going to skip them. We'll have a few different covers. I like the wraparound cover by Tom Riley. That's enough for me. We'll probably get like the Jenny cover, and I think there's like a David Nakayama cover or something. We'll probably do those if we qualify for them, if they're open order.
Also, there'll be a Toy du Jour exclusive cover.
That's correct.
I don't think we'll be carrying that.
We probably could if we reached out to Sam.
I was going to say, do you not want to order 2s and 3s and just get them from Sam?
Maybe we should talk to him.
We can't. That is against terms of service.
It is. I don't want to make him a sub distributor.
That's okay. You already admitted you sub distribute to Maria Wolf.
She's not a store. I sold her comic books. I don't care what she does with them.
That's fair. But you specifically said for her to resell them.
Sure. We sell, Jesus Christ, you know how many comics we sell on a weekly basis that people are reselling, and I know they're reselling?
I mean, we talk about Absolute Batman, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, do you know how many subscribers we have where I'm like, I know that you're ordering this because you're going to flip it online?
That's fair. It's completely fair.
The market is practically based on that.
And since we do charge Maria Wolf more than cover.
More than cover price comics.
Brought it all back together.
We did it.
Shout out to Christopher Haith from Crooked Dog Comics who came to visit from Ohio this week.
Specifically on a day I wasn't there. I see how it is.
Yep. He and I set it up ahead of time. He wanted to know exactly when you wouldn't be there.
Mm-hmm.
And I said...
the answer is Saturday, October 19th.
Exactly what I said. Perfect. Thanks for listening.
Keep reading comics.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 Northwestern Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. Keep up to date with new releases and events at challengerscomics.com. And help fund this podcast at patreon.com/challengers.